What's up, my fellow friends and cigar enthusiasts? My name is Dan, and this is the Cigar Salute. I want to apologize to you guys for the delays in getting this feature out, but I wanted to make sure I had the most comprehensive and accurate information possible. And unfortunately, in order to do that, I feel like it's best that I read from a pre-printed, I guess script is the best word. Because there's just so much information to go through, and I really don't want to miss anything. And so please forgive me if I'm going to be reading off paper here. I'm going to do my best not to be looking down too much, but bear with me, please. It's the best way to keep the flow and continuity and the pace of this feature, which is going to be pretty long. It's the best way to keep it going forward. And there's going to be a lot of pictures, because I believe that's the best way to tell this story. So, Cigar Salute was conceived on Instagram in December of 2014 as a public social media cigar journal for my own purposes of enjoyment and connecting with fellow cigar enthusiasts, both locally and abroad. Over the past 5 years, I have steadily transformed the page into a multifaceted resource for cigar reviews, vendor recommendations, a networking tool, a social club, and a tool for sharing important information. In September of 2016, I posted my first YouTube feature. I took that feature down due to inaccuracies regarding reliable Cuban cigar vendors. Those who have been following my content know what I'm talking about. That feature went on to garner over 12,000 views by the time I removed it this past spring. Since then, I have posted several other videos on this channel when I feel like I have relevant content to discuss with the community. Excuse me, my apologies. I've made mistakes, and I've been incorrect at times in my information, and for that, I truly apologize. I've always done my best to rectify that, and I will continue to do so. Those who've been following my content are already aware of this, but in case you're a newcomer to our community here, please know that I have a career independent of the cigar industry, and I am in nobody's pocket. I do not receive any discounts or free cigars from any of the merchants discussed in this feature, and my only agenda is accurate documentation of my experiences with the vendors that will be discussed in this feature over the course of my nearly 6 years of smoking Cuban cigars and purchasing them online. I'll be focusing specifically on my experiences with these merchants in 2019. What you are going to see is a photo-assisted walkthrough of my Cuban cigar purchases from 5 popular online vendors for the year 2019 in their entirety. You can be assured that I made sure to thoroughly vet my purchases from these merchants, and you will see the wares received from them for yourself in the photos I'll be narrating along with. After all, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and they can tell the story far better than I can ever articulate. I conceived the idea for this project at the very beginning of the year, and it has been revised several times since then. What was supposed to be one purchase from 6 vendors has morphed into several dozen purchases from 5 vendors. Of course, as anyone who has been following my content this year is probably aware, I disqualified Finest Cuban Cigars from this feature after their test order was proven to contain counterfeit Cohiba Robustos, and I suspect that other markers may have been counterfeit as well. For more information on that, check out my Finest Cuban Cigars roast feature that was released a few months ago. Oh no, we're missing a page. So without further ado, let me thank you for all your support, and welcome to the very first annual VendorBowl. What's up, everybody? Welcome to VendorBowl. So this is going to be an annual feature shown at the end of every year because I feel like that's the best way to stay current on who's reliable and who's not, and keep track of how things change with the vendors over the years. Some of the problems with some of the bloggers that make videos on getting reliable online sources for Cuban cigars in the US is that some of the information is no longer relevant on older videos, i.e. the Dr. Joe videos promoting finest Cuban cigars. His videos, as great as they are like a commercial for finest Cuban cigars at times, and unfortunately some people don't realize that Joe's been gone since late 2015. He's no longer involved with the community, and he's not keeping up with the page, and there is a strong possibility that someone who doesn't take any further effort to vet the information in those videos is going to get fake cigars, which is absolutely what we want to avoid. So this is going to be an annual feature, and it's I had a blast making this, and I apologize again that I'm going to be reading off paper here, but again, it's the best way to control the flow and continuity of the feature. If I'm talking a little slow at times, I apologize. I'm just doing that so I can place the pictures and have a chance for everybody to see the cigars, the photographs as I'm speaking. So I don't want to speak too fast and have the photographs of the cigars just whiz on past too quickly for anybody to get a good look. If something's a little too fast for you, just hit the pause button so you can take a look. Or if you desire more photos from a particular order, shoot me an email at cigarsalute@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at cigar_salute, and I'd be glad to send you photos from a particular order or a particular box of cigars if you're interested in seeing them. Okay? So let's get into this. We're going to start with the vendor that I've been using since 2014. They've been around since 1998, and they are now, in 2019, an official Habanos retailer out of Switzerland, run by a gentleman named Mark. For those of you who insist on using only licensed suppliers for your cigars, please take note, you will not receive any boxes with serials removed at CigarOne, as they are sourced from their authorized regional distributor, Intertabac AG. CigarOne is one of my personal favorite vendors, and I almost always send newcomers here who are unfamiliar with Cuban cigars first for several reasons. Number one, they have the cleanest and easiest to navigate interface of any of the vendors in this feature. Number two, they have the consistently quickest and reliable shipping with tracking included. It does cost $16 US currency for that shipping, but it's well worth it. Number three, they have high standards of quality control and are an excellent source for newcomers to get a reliable baseline on the flavors of the popular marcas and their profiles, packaging, bands and everything. It's a great way that you're going to get legit stuff from this vendor, and if you buy Cohibas from this vendor or Monte Cristos from this vendor, you can study the packaging, you can, get to know the flavor profiles of the cigars. So if you order those marcas from another vendor in the future and it tastes, way off compared to what that might not be 100% indication of counterfeit product, but you'll know almost immediately that something's off. So it's always good to have a good baseline of knowing that you have the real deal in your hand, and you always have that as a reference point to compare if you decide to venture over to other retailers in the future. Number four, and this is a big one, they sell 3 and 5 pack cardboard and tubo packs, which many newcomers desire to get a variety of cigars without committing to a full box. Number 5, they process their orders very quickly and have excellent customer service, and I can personally vouch that they stand behind their package replacement guarantee. I had an order seized by customs in 2014, the very first order that I placed with CigarOne, and they replaced it after 30 days, no questions asked. Okay, Mark was an absolute gentleman about it, and I received that replacement box 6 days after it was sent out. Those cigars were delicious, by the way. It was a 3-pack of Cohiba Robustos in cardboard and a 5-pack of Punch, which is really the cigar that was responsible for getting me away from American market cigars and really getting me into the world of Cuban cigars. I placed a total of 7 orders with CigarOne in 2019, all of which made it here inside of 7 days. Some have already seen the first, which was received in January on my CigarOne vendor review feature. I received a beautiful 10-count box of K. Dorsey number 50s, as well as a 3-pack of Cohiba Siglo 5 Tubos, a 3-pack of Hoyo de Monterrey Epicure number 1s, and a 5-count pack of Rafael Gonzalez Perlas. This order was absolutely flawless and the first Cuban cigar order I had placed in nearly a year. It is responsible for reigniting my passion for Cuban tobacco and my love for receiving cigars in the mail. For my second order, which was received in early March, I received a 5-pack of Cohiba Exquisitos, a 5-pack of Cohiba Panatellas, a 3-pack of Monte Cristo number 4, a 3-pack of Hoyo de Monterrey Epicure number 2s, and a 4-pack of Vigueros Entre Tiempos. This order was excellent as well, though some of the Cohiba came over-humidified with mold on them. This was an easy fix though, and the mold did not return or affect the flavor and smokability of the cigars once brushed off. My next order was received in May and contained a 12-count box of Trinidad Reyes, a 3-pack of Partagas Series E number 2 Tubos, and a 5-pack of Hoyo de Monterrey Rio Seco, and this was a sampler pack that was vacuum sealed, just 5 loose cigars. It didn't come with cardboard or tubos or anything like that. And also in this order, I had another 5-count pack of Rafael Gonzalez Perlas. Next, in June, we have the only order this year that came in a padded manila shipper rather than a cardboard box. A beautiful 10-count box of Juan Lopez Eminentes 2016 Swiss Regional Editions. The box and cigars arrived in perfect condition despite not being shipped in a cardboard box. Next, we have an exploration of the Cohiba Siglo series. I received this order in September, and it is a mixed order of 3-count packs of Siglo 1, 2, 3, 4, and Medio Siglo 3-pack Tubos. This purchase filled the gaps in my sampling of every Vitola in the line and helped spark my affinity for the series. I was so impressed by the Siglo 4 that in November, I purchased 2 5-packs of them at an excellent price from CigarOne, $92. Let me just pause for a moment and say that $92 for a 5-pack of Siglo 4 is an excellent deal when you look at it like this. 92 times 2, 184, okay? Times 3, 276. That's 15 cigars, 15 Cohiba Siglo 4 for $276. Now, to purchase 15 Cohiba Siglo 4 from iHavanas or Cigars of Habanos in the tubos, you're talking a minimum of $320 something. So especially if CigarOne, very often they have promo codes and whatnot, you got to keep an eye out for the sales at CigarOne. You got to keep an eye out for the promo codes. They're not just going to automatically put them there. You have to look for the voucher codes and enter that number in the order form. So, you know, everyone talks about CigarOne being overpriced all the time, but you can get hooked up there real good if you know how to do it. All right, so pay extra attention to the sales and promo codes. Pay extra attention to the difference in the prices regarding the formats in which the cigars are sold, because you could find yourself getting an excellent deal. I got 10 of these cigars for less than $20 a piece, which is an absolute steal compared to every other vendor, including the notoriously cheap ones. All right, back to business. My final order from CigarOne for 2019 came in late November 2019 when they ran an incredible Black Friday sale. I received an incredible box of Monte Cristo Especial number 2s for $200 USD, which is an unheard of price for this incredible and elegant Panatella. And let me tell you, for a young cigar, April 2019, these cigars exhibit zero of the sick period, which I'm starting to think is becoming a thing of the past with Cuban cigars. And on top of which, the cigar, within a couple of weeks of receiving the box, the humidification, they needed almost no acclimation. The burn was perfect and the flavors were beautiful. Bright, twangy caramel flavors, and the best examples of the Monte Especial number 2 that I've ever smoked. Okay, so I highly recommend that cigar if you haven't checked it out. And $200, I mean, that's an incredible price for that cigar. 25 of them, by the way. I also garnished that order with a $52 box of Rafael Gonzalez Panatella Extra, an excellent short filler daily driver stick. So now that you've seen some of the lovely wares that CigarOne can offer you, let's talk a few cons. The number one gripe that people have with CigarOne is price. Now, while I mentioned that they host some excellent sales, some of the regular price boxes are completely overinflated from the price of their competitors. Their prices on some cigars can be even more expensive than LCDH outlets online. $864 US for a box of Cohiba Corona Especials, $1,100 box of Cohiba Esplendidos and Siglo 6. In some cases, these are more than twice the prices of other vendors in this feature, and I would advise not buying Cohiba boxes here unless they are running a sale. I saw the prices drop to a very competitive level during the Black Friday sale, and when CigarOne runs a sale on a particular box of Cohibas, they are often very competitively priced. So if you absolutely feel obligated to buy your Cohiba boxes or cabinets here, be patient. They will probably be on sale at some point or another. It really is mostly Cohiba that suffers the worst from this price inflation. Other marcas might be a little more expensive than other vendors, but they're priced very competitively compared to what they're charging for Cohiba. And I've always been very pleased with the quality of my boxes that I receive from CigarOne, regardless of the marca. Okay, I've never had a mediocre box of cigars from CigarOne. They always ship out top quality, and for some, that is more important than saving money. Number 2, the storage of the cigars. Cigars from this merchant tend to need extra time to acclimate in your humidor before they reach optimal smokability, as they tend to come very humidified. I would advise that you rest your cigars at 65% relative humidity for a period of 30 to 60 days before trying one to avoid draw and burn issues. This is less of a problem with tubos, so if you need good cigars for an upcoming event, I'd advise picking up a couple of packs of tubos for that wedding or whatever the special event is. maybe some CigarOne or Monte Petit #2 tubos. Those are some smaller cigars that'll really impress and probably be ready to go within a week of you receiving them. Now, this is something that really kind of varies with a lot of things. I'm just going by my experiences with the orders I received from this vendor. For those that aren't experienced with ordering Cuban cigars in the mail from overseas, this is a hard rule that I would stick to until you really start getting comfortable and getting familiar with the appearance and feel of a Cuban cigar in your hands, because you'll start to know when they're ready to be smoked. And what I mean by ready to be smoked, I mean that if you try to smoke the cigar too soon and it's over humidified, the cigar will draw like shit and it'll burn like shit and the taste will be off and you'll have wasted a cigar. A little bit of patience goes a long way, and I can assure you that it's worth the wait. Eventually you will start to get the feel for when a cigar is ready to be smoked. I usually like to wait until at the very least that the band of the cigar is able to be moved an inch in either direction. That generally tells me that the cigar will burn well and smoke well. Okay, just be careful with that. And if you're very eager to try your new cigars, then I would advise taking 1 or 2 out of the box and dry boxing them for a couple of days, and that will accelerate the acclimation period of the cigars and drop the humidity to a level where they will smoke well. So all in all, CigarOne will serve you well. There's no doubt about it, okay? Like I said, Mark is a gentleman, and I have a friendly relationship with him, and he is very aware that I've been referring my viewers to him now for years. He is always happy and eager to help my people out, and I'll be continuing to use their service in the coming years. There's absolutely no doubt about that. They've been around for a very long time, and there's a good reason for that. You'll never be disappointed with a box of cigars from CigarOne because of any issues with them. If you have an issue with the cigar, it's because it's just the nature of Cuban cigars in the variation in the vintages from year to year. So some vintages are better than others, but fortunately in 2018 and 2019 boxes, after 3 bad harvests in a row, we're finally getting out of those crops, and 2018 and 19 have been incredible vintages, and I have a feeling in a few years that boxes from these vintages will be fetching high price tags because they'll be extremely desired. I have a feeling that these cigars will age extremely well, and they are smoking better young than any other time that I've been involved with Cuban cigars. When I first got involved with smoking Cuban cigars in early 2014, when you purchased cigars, you had to wait till a cigar was at least a year old most of the time to get out of the sick period, and you had to wait a minimum of 2 years before that cigar would really start to open up and show you its true character. Now, while it's true that these cigars are always benefiting from age, it's taking less and less time for these cigars to really hit their stride. So I have not run into a single cigar yet this year that was over 6 months old that was in the sick period still. Okay, that's just my personal observation. Maybe other people have different definitions of that, but in my personal opinion, Cuban cigars now are smoking better young than they have been in any time in the last decade or two. So that wraps it up for CigarOne. If you have any questions about this retailer, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And again, when I speak about the cons of this vendor, I am just trying to be as honest as I possibly can. No merchant is perfect, but please do not discount this merchant if you're looking for a reliable retailer for Cuban cigars. You'll be very pleased with their wares if you choose to order from them. Pay attention to their sales if you are someone who is very value-minded. And even if you're not, it's silly to pass up a good sale, or it's silly to pass up promo codes that could save you money, and at the very least make your shipping free. So that about wraps it up for CigarOne. We're going to move on to the next vendor. Welcome back, friends. So let's dive into Friends of Habanos now. This merchant we'll be covering is another official Habanos retailer. They are a family-run business out of Australia that began in 1996 in the corner of a coffee warehouse by a gentleman named Robert Ayala. Robert, his wife Diana, and his son Ben all work in a tobacco shop in Australia. They are a staple of the Cuban cigar community, and an extreme wealth of information is available on the accompanying forum found on the Friends of Habanos webpage. Formerly known as Cigar Czar, and then known as Content, Cigar Underground Network Terminal International. Yes, that was actually the acronym at one point. Thankfully, they changed it to friendsofhabanos.com. This Pacific cigar company sourced merchant has had the online side of the business running since the early 2000s. I'm not 100% certain, but I believe the name was changed several times because of excessive amounts of packages being stopped at customs in the early 2010s. If anybody's interested, you can look on YouTube, and there are news clippings from Fox or ABC or something from Chicago O'Hare Airport, and it has an interview with the customs agent. They seized thousands upon thousands of boxes of Cuban cigars coming from all different countries, and I have heard that I read on various review websites that Cigar Czar in particular, Friends of Habanos in particular, that their packages were being intercepted more often than they weren't, we'll put it that way. So that, thankfully, that's changed. Their shipping methods have changed. And if you notice, guys, I'm not posting photos of shipping labels or boxes or specific packaging or nothing that would identify what a package from this merchant looks like, because I think it is absolutely insane. Despite the fact that, 50 boxes of cigars this year from the mail, and not a single one was seized by customs. We want to keep it that way. We don't want to thumb our noses in these guys' faces at customs and say, oh, hey, look what we're getting, blah, blah, blah. You didn't stop it. Like, it's just, to me, it's crazy to do that. So I've seen other reviewers, they post up close and detailed photos of the boxes they receive from a merchant. And I think that's just giving ammunition to OFAC and the customs to come after these merchants. And I don't, there's nothing that they can do legally, but they can really fuck it up for us on our end when they start grabbing packages. Who knows what kind of technology that they're capable of, what kind of information that they could grab off of that package if you show a clear enough view of it. So, I apologize for the tangent just now, but I think it's relevant to explain why I'm not going out of my way to talk about, what these merchants are listing on the customs labels or what they're doing on their packaging specifically, because that should remain something that stays between the consumer and the merchant. And the last thing we want to do is mess with anybody's money here, okay? And I don't want to mess with anybody's cigar collection either. As you can see in that very large tote behind me and the accompanying wine and door behind that, I have probably well over 1,000 cigars sitting right behind me, and well over half of them were sourced online, okay? And I'd like to keep that cigar collection growing, and I'd like to keep smoking genuine Cuban cigars that I receive abroad. So I'm not going to be the guy to fuck it up for everybody else. So this is another source to keep in mind if you are adamant about not purchasing cigars from the gray market. This merchant only sells cigars supplied from Pacific Cigar. Pacific Cigar Company is the official Habanos regional distributor for Asia and Australia. Okay. The processing for this vendor is rather slow, 7 to 10 days, and they make that disclaimer right on their webpage. So those who order from this merchant, be prepared for 2 to 3 week wait for your cigars, okay? There's a good reason for this, though. This vendor's claim to fame is their meticulous quality control standards. Each box is checked very thoroughly, and when buying from the international store, you can expect that you'll be receiving the best examples of these cigars currently available. You will receive a tracking number with free shipping provided by this merchant over $100. Okay, so if you place an order that's over $100, free shipping. The cigars arrive fast and well packed once in transit. So you might have to wait 7 to 10 days for them to process the order and send it out, but once it's in the mail, you'll receive that order. I was receiving, out of the 3 orders I got from them this year, once they were actually in the mail, they took about a week to get here, which isn't bad at all from Australia. I placed my first order with this merchant on February 12th, 2019, and I received it on March 2nd. You can see the attention to the packaging and the quality of this lovely box of St. Louis Rey Regios here. The wrappers have a lovely sheen to them, and the cigars are of excellent quality. This merchant will not ship out any garbage from their international store. If you want prom queens, I definitely bookmark these guys. Also, take note, this merchant will sell singles. Very important. This is one of 2 merchants on this list that sells single cigars, okay? One of the reasons I loved Finest Cuban Cigars before their bullshit was their wide selection of singles. So Friends of Habanos fills this void for my people out there who prefer singles to boxes. So newcomers, take note. This is an official retailer that sells singles. My next order was placed in August and received about 18 days from the date I ordered. Here we have a mixed order of singles. So we have some Por Lorinaga Picadores, Trinidad Colonials, Partagas Lusitanius, H. Upmann Half Coronas, Bolivar Royal Coronas, and Petit Edmundos. Aside from some minor cracks on the wrapper at the feet of the cigars received were of outstanding quality. The last order I received from Friends of Habanos that I have to show was placed on October 24th and received on November 4th. So very fast shipping and processing. I guess that wasn't a particularly busy time for them. But this is one of the most gorgeous boxes of cigars I received all year. A March 2019 cabinet of Trinidad Colonials. These are my favorite cigars, second only to one. I'd be remiss if I didn't show you this box of cigars and emphasize to you how delicious they are. They are outstanding, and I had purchased another box of these earlier in the year from another merchant that I'll show you later, and I will do a comparison of the quality of the Trinidad Colonials, and that taught me 2 different important lessons. Number 1, don't buy Trinidad cigars blind because they vary wildly in quality. And number 2, older does not necessarily mean better. So I'd be remiss if I was discussing Friends of Habanos and I didn't bring up 2424. This is an addictive first come, first serve activity hosted by Rob and processed by his wife Diana, where a few cigars are selected each night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Wednesday, and 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, Sunday and Thursday, where various cigars are graded by quality, PSP being the highest grade, clearance being the lowest. And even clearance looks great. So you're not going to get janky looking cigars just because they weren't purchased from the international store. So please, when I say clearance, don't assume that you're going to get garbage. The cigars are graded by quality, and the price is adjusted to be lower than the international store provides. Photos of the cigars are shown on the Friends of Habanos forum. On the Watering Hole forum, you will see the 2424 post, and they will post photos of the cigars that are being offered that particular day, and you have the opportunity to purchase the cigars by the box or in quarter boxes, which are packs of 6 singles. If you see something that you want to buy, then what you do is you place an email to Diana as fast as you can, and if your email is received before the stock runs out, you will receive an email from her saying that you got the cigars, and you'll be instructed to immediately make payment thereafter. Do not delay in making this payment, as you will have till the remainder of that day to do so before your claim to those cigars is relinquished. In that case, the next person who missed the cut will be contacted for an opportunity to make that purchase. This is an extremely fun, addictive, and popular feature of this merchant, and many buy their cigars exclusively from 2424. I actually tried my hand with 2424 this past Thanksgiving, and I was able to score a 3-pack of El Laguito rolled Cohiba Esplendido for $87, which is a good deal, and a 6-pack of 2011 Partagas Serie D number 5 for $57 USD. I wish I had photos to show you of these cigars. Unfortunately, though, the package was addressed incorrectly, and the USPS returned the cigars to Australia. I have been in contact with the staff at FOH, and I have no doubts that I will get my cigars safe and sound in short order. While that's a bummer, I also recognize that this is a family-run business that operates at a very high volume, especially at the holiday season. So I think I've covered the pros of this vendor. Let's discuss the one negative that I see with this merchant, which is really beyond their control, but it's something that needs to be mentioned because especially if you're a newcomer and you're after one of the popular legendary cigars, you may run into this issue. And that would be out of stocks. This merchant's commitment to their quality control and their non-participation in the gray market means that they frequently run out of stock on popular cigars. I had to wait almost 3 months to order the Trinidad Colonials from them after being so impressed with the quality of the singles I received from them in the summertime order. I do not hold the merchant responsible for this, like I said, as it is beyond their control. I am growing more and more fond of this vendor, as many others already are. They have a rabid fan base in the community, and they are an excellent resource you will definitely be hearing about more in the years to come. I would advise all my people out there who place quality above all to give these guys a shot, as well as those who wish to purchase singles. I also advise those who have concerns about scratched out serial numbers to take notes of FOH, as you will never receive a box without a serial number from this vendor. Okay? So we have now covered 2 officially licensed Habanos retailers. And between those 2 vendors, you should be able to find almost anything you need right then and there. Okay? You may pay more for those cigars, but for those who wish to pay more for peace of mind, then there it is. Okay, now understand, now out of these 5 merchants, I did not receive a single cigar that was questionable. Okay, some had better quality than others, yes, but that is the nature of Cuban cigars. They can be rolled at, any cigar can be rolled in any factory at any time, and the quality can vary depending on which factory they were rolled, the quality of the crop at that particular time, and a whole bunch, who rolled them, you know what I'm saying? Like there's all sorts of different variables. So if you are after a box of prom queens, this is the vendor that I would send you to, okay? Because they will take the time to inspect their box of cigars before they send it out, and they will not send out anything from their international store that is less than magazine quality. All right? So you've heard about Friends of Habanos now, you've heard about CigarOne. Let's move on. Welcome back, friends. So, we're going to dive into iHavanas now. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for this. Those who have been following my content for a while know about iHavanas because I reviewed them on this very channel in the summer of 2017. When I first reviewed them, those same folks will remember that I was less than thrilled with that order for the condition that the cigars were in and the length of time the order took to get to me. After several of my viewers urged me to give them another chance, and seeing how popular they've become on the online forums, I decided it was necessary to include them here. And let me tell you, man, if there was anybody that should get a Most Improved Award, it should be iHavanas, because they really have stepped up their operation considerably since the last time I had used them. I was extremely impressed with several of my orders with them this year. So the improvements this young and popular vendor has made, they are someone that you should very much consider, especially with the sales that they run. So before I go on too much of a tangent here, let me get back on track. The first order I placed with iHavanas for 2019 was a 25-count box of Sancho Panza Non Plus, ordered on February 25th and received on March 4th. So right then and there, we noticed better shipping time than the 25 days that it took for me to receive my order in 2017. The cigars arrived in good condition with a scratched out serial number, but a 2016 box date. These have a unique flavor in the Habanos catalog, and they make for an excellent change-up from the norm in Habanos. My next purchase was received in April, a box of Cohiba Panatellas and a box of La Gloria Cubana Meadow de Oro No. 4s. Both boxes arrived with the serials intact and confirmed, outer cardboard boxes intact, and 2017 dates on both boxes. The MDO 4s are incredible Panatellas, as well as the Cohibas. I highly recommend both, and iHavanas sells them both at a great price. Those who follow my Instagram content are very aware of my love for the Cohiba Panatella, a 4.5 by 26 ring gauge mini Panatella. The flavor that these cigars generate for their size is as decadent and elegant as any of the larger Cohibas from the Linea Classica. They make for an excellent wedding cigar, and despite their small size, do not discount that the quality of the tobacco in there is as good as any other Cohiba, and you will get a solid 45 minutes to close to an hour of burn time if you're taking your time with it. And if you smoke it fast, it'll probably last about a half hour. But either way, it's an excellent small smoke. The La Gloria Cubana is one of my favorite boxes that I received this year. These cigars are medium in body, but very elegant and very complex, and you can taste the transitions are extremely noticeable from third to third as you progress through the cigar. This is the last regular production Vitola in the LGC lineup, and I would highly recommend that you add it to your collection before that goes extinct as well. Thin formats from niche brands are becoming a thing of the past, and Habanos SA is constantly culling legendary old school Vitolas from their catalog. I would take advantage of the low price on these now, because in a couple of years, if they become discontinued, I'm seeing boxes of La Gloria Cubana MDO number 2s fetching for between $500 and $700 US on average on the market these days, and these cigars are going to increase exponentially in value at some point when they do become discontinued, and I'm confident that they will, even though I hope they won't. After I received this order, I immediately placed another and received it a week later. So 7-day shipping and receiving time from iHavanas. They sent me I had the order in my hands before they even processed the payment from my account. Incredible improvement in the shipping time for iHavanas. That order contained Trinidad Colonials and Fonseca Delicias. The Colonials, as I discussed in the Friends of Habanos feature, the Colonials showed me how inconsistent the quality of Trinidad can be. This particular box simply has the ugliest wrappers I've ever seen on a cigar, but they taste great, true to the marca, but not as good as other examples I've had. Never buy Trinidad blind. That is the lesson I learned from this experience. The Delicias, on the other hand, are an incredible value, short filler smoke with sweet floral notes and a box date of April 2015. It always pays to explore the niche marcas, as you are likely to receive a well-aged box. In early May, I received a 15-count carton of Cohiba Robustos. The cereal was intact. The construction of the cigars is beautiful. They arrived in excellent condition, aside from 2 cigars having minor cracks at the feet. Cigars in cardboard packs are notorious for holding excess humidity, and they can be difficult to ship. They also take extra time to acclimate, but since this is known amongst many in the community, you can use this to your advantage if you exercise some patience. Ordering Montes or Partagas in this format can mean that you are going to score a well-aged box, and they are often priced lower than a comparable amount of cigars in a dress box or cabinet. One of my viewers received a 2011 box of Monte Cristos in this format. If I were you, I would order them before the summertime, though, as they can be more vulnerable to mold. My next order from iHavanas came in late July. A box of El Rey del Mundo Choice Supreme and a box of Hoyo de Monterrey Dumer. The El Rey del Mundos are simply the best I've had from the marca. Simply gorgeous cigars. I've shown them off in the last video that I put up, and those who follow my Instagram know how much I've been raving about this particular box of cigars. The Hoyo de Monterrey, while they are good cigars, if you're looking for a cigar in that format, I would highly recommend the El Rey del Mundo Demitas over the Hoyo Dumers, as the Demitas is an infinitely richer and better tasting cigar, and they're cheaper. In mid-August, I did a box split with 2 of my coworkers for a 25-count box of Bolivar Royal Coronas that were on sale for $180. So that was $60 for 8 Bolivar Royal Coronas, an incredible deal. These were outstanding cigars, and they are smoking beautifully. My next order from iHavanas came in early October, a cabinet of Hoyo de Monterrey Petit Robustos and a box of Fonseca Cosacos. The Hoyos were a bit dry, the cedar insert was broken in half, and the box contained wood mites crawling on the cigars upon receipt. The wood mites do not harm the cigars and died upon freezing the cigars for a week. The Hoyo de Monterrey Petit Robusto is an outstanding cigar, my favorite of the marca, but they need time to reach their true potential. My final order from iHavanas came in early December, a box of Bolivar Junior Coronas. The quality of these cigars is incredible, even in youth. The Partagas factory rolled some incredible cigars this year. These were no exception. So I'd like to commend Brian and the iHav crew for stepping up and becoming a star player in serving the community. I do have a couple of gripes with my experiences with them this year, though. They are as follows. Number one, on 3 separate occasions, my orders were shipped to my billing address, not my shipping address. Luckily, this is my parents' house 1.5 miles away. But on 2 occasions, those packages sat at their house for days before I knew it. Number 2, no tracking provided and inconsistent shipping times make it tough to predict when your order will arrive. It could be 5 to 7 days. It could be 2.5 weeks. You won't know until they get to you. Number 3, non-response to emails on 2 separate occasions. Despite these caveats, the sales that I have are too good to pass up at times. They have some of the best pricing of any vendor, and they are probably the most popular vendor of the online vendors today. They feed a large portion of the secondary Cuban cigar market in America today. So I'd like to say that I would definitely keep the caveats I discussed in mind when making a purchase from iHavanas. Definitely am not thrilled about the customer service issues. There's just no excuse not to return emails like that. And, I'm a little disappointed about that. But at the same time, I'm going to continue to use iHavanas for, their sale items or whatever. But I've migrated over to other retailers for the most part for regular price purchases. So they're an important resource to have, an important resource to keep in your back pocket. And if you are a member of any of the Facebook Cuban cigar forums that run sales on the secondary market, keep in mind that a large portion of the cigars for sale on those forums, that those sellers, more times than not, they are procuring their cigars from vendors like iHavanas and Cigars of Habanos. They are buying those cigars on sale and selling them at a markup to you. So if you are just buying so you don't have to deal with the inconvenience of, dealing with the foreign vendor and waiting for the cigars to come in the mail, or you don't want to take the risk of, having a charge that could link you to a crime technically on your credit card report or your bank statement for various reasons. I have, viewers who are concerned about things like that. I would advise buying the cigars on the secondary market at that point, but in other scenarios, there's no reason not to use iHavanas, but there are better choices out there, in my opinion, and that's not me hating on them or anything like that, but it's just, the customer service could use some improvement. Hopefully that will change. I have spoken to Brian briefly a few weeks ago, and when he gets back to you, he is a gentleman, and I'm not saying that it's his fault that I didn't have the emails responded to. I don't know if it's him managing emails all the time or whatever, but that definitely left a sour taste in my mouth. So let's move on. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to discuss PuroExpress. So when I began seriously smoking and collecting cigars in the fall of 2011, the first grumblings I ever heard of legit Cuban cigars being purchased online was from a coworker who told me about PuroExpress. Years later, I would watch them get bashed on Reddit and forums with rumors of moldy cigars and bad customer service. Some of my viewers have always loved them, though, so I felt it was only fair to include them in the feature. Let me say, never rely strictly on the opinions of others in an anonymous forum like Reddit for info. I placed my first order with PuroExpress on March 4th and received it on March 11th. I was immediately put at ease about my purchase upon opening it. Even with the scratched out serial number, this box of Trinidad Vigia, rolled at El Laguito no less, was of such high quality, I was blown away by my experience with them. First off, when they say express, I mean express. Their shipping is fast, on par with CigarOne, sometimes faster. They do not use cardboard boxes to ship their cigars. They house boxes in plastic air bubble pillow shippers that are wrapped in a white plastic shipping bag. There is a degree of customization regarding shipping options, and you can choose whether you want your cigars vacuum sealed, a Boveda pack included, opened and inspected, and the shipping is free when spending more than 150 euros. The website interface is similar to CigarOne's, but not quite as organized, and the vitola dimensions in the descriptions are 1 point off on the ring gauge. I was so pleased with my initial order at PuroExpress that I decided to make my first 25-count Cohiba box purchase with them. In April, I received my second order from them, which wound up becoming my favorite cigar currently, Cohiba Corona Especiales. I received this box in April, just as I was getting into the thick of investigating the FCC Cohiba scandal, and had not yet gotten all the information together regarding the Cohiba bans, but these cigars beyond impressed me. The box arrived in flawless condition, and my apartment was filled with the scent of honey and flowers upon opening them. There was no mistaking that these guys had sent me the real deal. The bands matched those that Hank Noda from Vrijdog Premium Printing confirmed to be legit, and it was this box of cigars that helped me gather the info with the blue squares on the Cohiba bands that are revealed under blacklight. The serial number on this box was fully intact and matches the description in the Habanos authenticity check. So with 2 outstanding purchases of high-end cigars under my belt from this vendor, I felt very comfortable with them, and I received a box of La Gloria Cubana Serie D number 5 Spanish regional editions from them in early May. These also had the serials intact and matched in the authenticity check. I am no fanboy chaser of regional editions, let me tell you. A lot of times I think they're overpriced and overhyped, and they're just, they're for, what do they call them? Second band sluts. Guys that like to dick wave with their cigar and show off the fancy bands with the extra fucking little regional thing, and they paid, $700 and blah, blah. Listen, you like what you like, and, that's cool and everything. And I do have a couple of amazing boxes of regionals. I'll admit that, when there's a, like La Excepcion, when I have a chance to score a particular brand in a vitola that's not made anymore, or a packaging format that's not made anymore, then I'm on it, sure, but you're not going to catch me spending, $1,000 on El Rey del Mundo Lanceros. Anyways, back to the LGCs. These are an exception because I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but Imperial / Tabacalera SA had 50,000 boxes commissioned of this release. Not 50,000 cigars, 50,000 boxes of this particular cigar were commissioned, of these La Gloria Cubana Petite Robustos. And they're outstanding cigars. They're gorgeous cigars. The flavor is, light to medium bodied, and they have the classic LGC honey, wood, and floral flavors. And I burned through about half the box already, and outstanding cigars. I'm probably going to grab another box to save for the future. They're just a tremendous value, and some vendors you can find them on sale for less than $100 for a box, which comes out to under $10 a stick. My next purchase was the real test for Puro. In late August, I received 3 boxes. one 10-count box of Monte Cristo Petit and Mundos for a friend, one 10-count box of Monte Cristo Petit No. 2s for myself, and a box of Ramon Allones Small Club Coronas. All 3 cereals were removed, but the Petit and Mundos were gorgeous, with my buddy George being the lucky recipient of the 2017 box of Petty Eddies. The Petit No. 2s are outstanding as well, and some of the best Monte Cristos that I smoked all year. The box of Ramon Allones were from 2017, and the scent of the aromatic tobacco was prominent the second that I opened up the box. Unfortunately, I noticed a perfect round hole in the bottom of the box, and I discovered that the box was infested with tobacco beetles upon inspection. This was discussed at length in my last video, so check that out if you need the full story. I promptly killed the little bastard, snapped a couple of photos, and sealed the box back up immediately to prevent any beetles from escaping. I contacted customer service and received a prompt and courteous response from Tracy at PuroExpress. She instructed me to throw out the box, and a new one was at my doorstep 6 days later. Later that evening, Tracy contacted me again and asked for the inventory number on the white sticker on the bottom of the box, which I had a photograph of that sticker, so I was able to give it to her. They used that number to isolate the location where the box was stored in their warehouse so they could inspect their inventory for further beetle infestations. I was impressed and happy to hear that PE was proactive about the situation. The replacement box of Small Club Coronas was a 2019, but that box is in my top 10 boxes for the year. A vendor is only as good as when something goes wrong, and PE's response to the situation gave me the confidence to make one final purchase in November. A box split of Cohiba Siglo II with my man Seabold, who I just want to shout out. Seabold, a good friend of mine and a viewer of mine that I came across earlier this year. I want to thank Seabold for this lovely Cohiba ashtray that he sent me for my birthday a couple of months ago. And I want to thank you, Seabold, for being such a good friend. Seabold and I split this box, this cabinet of Siglo II, And man, when they say express, I'm not kidding, because the cabinet arrived in 4 days, which is incredible. The serial number was removed once again, but I was able to obtain it via the micro serials on the warranty seal. If you zoom in with your phone camera, you can often piece together the serial number because distributors who scratch off the codes often leave a couple of digits remaining in several spots. You only need to obtain 8 of those 12 digits, since the first 4 numbers of a serial are 0000. The serial checked out as a match in Habanos authenticity check, so fear not in that regard. And this is what I tell people. A lot of newcomers get very concerned that they got burned when they get a box from a vendor that has the serial numbers scratched off. I've gone over the reason that they do this ad nauseum, and it's almost always in the frequently asked questions of any gray market Cuban cigar vendor. But most of the time, it's not the merchant that does it; it's the distributor that sells them the cigars, because they are buying that particular box of cigars from a distributor from another region who is not supposed to be selling to this particular vendor. And anybody who's entered a serial number into the Habanos SA authenticity check, if you look above the description of the cigars, you will see another number, and that number can tell Habanos SA or anybody who anybody with access to the database which distributor those cigars were sent to originally, which is basically a paper trail of how somebody in America got a hold of cigars that they're not supposed to have. and that particular distributor can be fined or disqualified from receiving any more stock from Habanos SA, even though that'll probably never happen or anything like that. But some distributors are more afraid than others of this happening. So this is why you see a scratched out serial number. But like I say, more times than not this year when I got a box of cigars with a scratched out serial, probably 8 out of 12 times or 8 out of 10 times, I was able to get that serial number from the micro serials that are printed on the warranty seal, because they scratch them out, but you can't really see them with your naked eye. So sometimes they miss a few digits, and it's easy to put them together. So every box of Cohibas that I got this year, and there was only 2 that I got this year that had scratched out serial numbers, I was able to confirm that via Habanos authenticity check by piecing together the serial number and confirming it. And let me just say also that the serial number being a match is, not always a 100% guarantor of authenticity. You still have to go by all the other earmarks that you would look for in a genuine box of Cohiba, okay? And that goes with any Cuban cigar, all right? But I want you guys to be confident that just because you get a box without a serial number from one of these vendors, do not freak out about that, okay? Of course, we all want to see the serial number there. It looks better. Nobody wants to see something with a ripped tag, especially when you want to show it off to your friends or whatever it is, that makes you iffy about it or whatever. Or nobody wants to feel like they got ripped off or anything, or that they got somehow inferior goods. It is not a sign of inferior goods. It is the way that we are able to illegally obtain the goods. So be glad that we have these avenues, and be glad that we have the gray market, because if we were only buying from official sources that purchase from their authorized regional distributor, we'd be dealing with out of stocks a lot more often, and you wouldn't have access to that box of Siglo too. So if you're interested in doing this, use the zoom feature on your phone camera or use a magnifying glass. And if you need my help, I'll try my best to help you. It might be difficult to do if I'm not physically able to use my own stuff to zoom in on the warranty seal. But if it's something that's really important to you, I'll do my best to help you. So this box of Siglo 2, gorgeous box of cigars. The shipping time on them was just outstanding, and I smoked one of the Siglo 2 the other night, and the 2018 and 2019 Siglos are just smoking incredible, and I was able to get, due to this box split with my man Seabold, I got 13 Siglo 2 for $150. So I mean, you just can't argue with that. And my viewers that are budget conscious or aren't willing to commit to spending, $300 to $500 on a full box of Cohibas, you may want to consider linking up with one of my other viewers and splitting a box of cigars, because that is a very good way to build up a variety of cigars in your collection, or to get your hands on a dozen or so expensive cigars without dropping a nut. So back to PuroExpress. I apologize for the tangent, guys. Puro is unique in that their owner is from Spain, their warehouse is in Switzerland at Geneva Airport, and their offices are in Hong Kong. This allows them access to multiple regional distributors, and they have access to Spanish, Swiss, Portuguese, and Asian regional editions. Aside from my experience with the cigar beetles, I have very little cons I can discuss regarding PuroExpress. Okay, and this beetle experience of PuroExpress is the same one that I discussed in my last video, and it is the reason that I have begun freezing my entire collection. Since I've last addressed all you guys, that entire tote behind you almost has been frozen, and all of the boxes in my wine door have been frozen. It hasn't impacted the flavor. I haven't had any issues. And we have other stuff that we'll discuss in my next feature. But back to PuroExpress, we're going to wrap this up. So let's talk about the caveats regarding PuroExpress that I noticed this year. Okay, number one, you have to pay an extra $1 for a box to be vacuum sealed. I don't know. That should be included. Come on. And there's no tracking. Not that you really need it, because honestly, these guys, their shipping is very fast and very reliable. They hold the record for, out of these 5 vendors, that order of Siglo 2 came to the fastest out of any other vendor that sent me any box of cigars this year. Okay? So, ordered on a Thursday, sent out on a Friday, in my mailbox on Tuesday. I mean, you can't beat that. That's just insane. So before I even thought about wanting to track the order, if I could, I wouldn't have even tracked it at that point yet. And it was in my mailbox already. You get what I'm saying? So number 2, your first order must go to your billing address on your credit card, even if that's not your current address. So the first order that I received from them in March, that had to go to my parents' house, because that's what the billing address on my credit card, my debit card is. I never changed it. So that's not really a big deal, but, for me personally, it wasn't a big deal, but for somebody else, it might be. So make sure that if you use this merchant, that you're using a payment method that is linked to either your current address or an address that you have access to. Number 3, until you have received 3 successful orders, you are not allowed to place an order until you have received the one that's currently in transit. That means that until you have 3 orders under your belt with them, let's say that, you just placed your second order with them. You haven't received it, and let's say that there's something else on the website that you want to buy. You can't make that purchase until you receive order number 2. So you can't make purchase number 3 until you receive order number 2. And once you get that third purchase without any hiccups, then you can start placing orders while you have others in transit. And finally, their email system is internal, meaning that you must log into their page to write or receive a message from customer service. If there's an issue regarding your order, you will receive an email on your whatever email address you supply, telling you that there's an email from PuroExpress on your PuroExpress email. So you have to open an email, then log on to PuroExpress to check your email. And finally, a large portion of serial numbers are scratched out. This may bother some, and like I discussed, I had personally confirmed the authenticity of that box of Siglo 2 that you guys saw, and I confirmed the authenticity of several other boxes I got from PuroExpress without serial numbers. The Trinidad's I was not able to confirm via the serial number, but let me tell you that those are some of the most beautiful cigars that I got this year. And PuroExpress has sent me some incredible boxes. At least 2 of my top 10 boxes for 2019 came from this vendor, the Corona Especials, the Trinidad Vizia, the Ramon Ayones Smoke Club Coronas. Just excellent cigars, incredible cigars. The quality, the packaging, flawless, beautiful examples of Cuban tobacco. So I highly recommend this vendor. Like I said, they hold the record for the fastest shipping on any single order. They hold the fastest record for shipping. Ordered on a Thursday, shipped out on Friday, received on a Tuesday. Okay, so I always look forward to an experience with PuroExpress. Anytime I use them, I know I'm going to have a good experience. Even, some people might be turned off by hearing about the tobacco beetle experience, but let me tell you that this is something that can happen with any merchant, okay? And I discussed this at length in my last feature, so I'm not going to go crazy discussing it now, but you want to think twice before you start making orders for cigars to come overseas in the mail during the dead of summer, which is what happened with the PuroExpress order. according to the life cycle of a tobacco beetle, the beetles had to be alive in larval form at the very least before they were shipped out. In fact, the beetles probably were adults before they were shipped out, because the pupation period takes several weeks, and the cigars were only in the mail for about a week. So, I mean, that's just something to consider. But I would highly recommend with any vendor that you freeze any boxes you get, because you want to be sure, and you just never know. It can, even though that boxes from Habanos SA that are for export are supposed to be frozen in a warehouse, even if they are, which they may not be 100% of the time. I mean, we can make a whole other VendorBowl about, just instances of Cuba being Cuba. Okay. So the box of cigars can become reinfested or infested with tobacco beetles at any point in the chain of custody. It doesn't matter that they were frozen upon export. They can be infested anytime after that. So I highly recommend any purchase from any vendor. Any cigars that come through your front door should hit the freezer. And if you want instructions on how to do that successfully without damaging your cigars, and making sure that you kill any potential pests or larvae or eggs or whatever the fuck might be in those cigars, watch my last feature. All right? So we have one more vendor to discuss, and we're going to come back with that now. Welcome back, friends. So we're in the home stretch now. We are in the last vendor discussed in VendorBowl, and this vendor is revered by old pros and newcomers alike, and they are a vendor that needs no introduction. Cigars of Habanos, and as I will affectionately abbreviate them, COH. COH is legendary in the community. Owner Ravi, and forgive me, Ravi, if I butcher your last name, bro. I understand the pain, because my last name is pretty tough to pronounce too, based off the spelling. But Ravi Mahbubani, okay, and I'm just going to call him Ravi for short. And shout outs to Steve Gomez for correcting me on how to pronounce Ravi, because I was saying Ravi. So Ravi is heralded as being the architect of the online vendor business for Habanos as we know it today. And that comes straight from the mouth of Rob Ayala from FOH. In 1996, Ravi used his family's company, IMEL, International Marketing and Export, I forgot what the L stands for, which deals in importing seafood from Cuba to Hong Kong, to make his first large-scale purchase of cigars directly from Cuba, taking business from Pacific Cigar in the bars and restaurants and local clubs of Hong Kong. And this was taken from an interview with Ravi himself in 1998. He then dove into the online business in the early 2000s. He's a well-connected and respected man in the industry. Ravi has received praises from other industry stalwarts and contemporary and fellow merchant Rob Ayala from FOH, just like I said a minute ago. COH is a gray market vendor, receiving stock from various distributors, with cigars sourced from distributors in the Czech Republic, Asia, other parts of Europe. COH has little issue staying stock on most cigars. Their website interface is very simple, and they are rumored to share a warehouse and staff with iHavanas in Switzerland. COH uses drop shipping services to avoid having their packages shipped directly from Switzerland, with packages coming from European locations not known for exporting large quantities of Cuban cigars like Switzerland is. Price very similar to iHavanas. I probably use COH more this year than any other vendor. Their service is extremely reliable and consistent, and I received many boxes of incredible cigars from them this year. My first order was placed on February 25th, 2019, and I received it on March 8th. This is a box of San Cristobal Principe, which cost $106 US, and it was one of the best Cuban cigars I've tasted in a long time. The box was slightly warped due to bubble wrap being placed at the feet of the cigars during shipping, and the box was shrink wrapped with a small 69% Boveda pack during shipping, as are all of their boxes, and the cigars themselves arrived in excellent condition. My next order was placed immediately thereafter, and another one immediately after that. Here is a box of Por Larrañaga Monte Carlos and 4 boxes of Monte Cristo Puritos. In the same week, I received a box of El Rey del Mundo Demitas, which anybody who follows my content knows that this is a staple in my rotation. I am on box number 3 for the year already, because that's how good they are to me. As well as a 10-count box of Monte Cristo number 4s. One of my best boxes of Cuban cigars, definitely in my top 10 for the year. It was a UEB July 2017 box, 10-count box of Monte Cristo number 4s. As you can see, beautiful milk chocolate wrappers on the cigars. Incredible twangy caramel and bright flavors. Just classic Monte. Absolute necessity in any Cuban enthusiast collection, in my opinion. I also received a box of Bolivar Petit Coronas, also an excellent box for an excellent price. These cigars have really come into their own. February 2018 box date. And while the draw was a little tough on them for the first month or so that they were acclimating, they have since opened up substantially, and they have gone to finesse into something beautiful. I also received a 10-count box of Romeo and Juliet Short Churchills with beautiful reddish rosado wrappers. And the flavor on these cigars is outstanding, and the quality of the cigars and the construction on these Romeos is gorgeous. I also received a 15-count cardboard carton of Hoyo de Monterrey Petit Robustos, which were dated from November of 2016. Now, I noticed a substantial variation from pack to pack in the shade of these wrappers on the cigars, which leads me to believe that they may have been an amalgamation of several 3-packs tossed into the carton. So maybe they all aren't from November 2016. Either way, I paid $90 for 15 Hoyo de Monterreys, which is a outstanding price. And these Hoyos, this particular box was the very best Hoyos I've ever had, save for a lone 2013 Epicure number 2 that I had smoked earlier this year. After seeing what COH could do for me, I began ordering from them almost weekly. April's purchases included my first purchase from their vintage section, a 2015 box of Cohiba Exquisitos. You can see that the serial is intact on the outer cardboard packaging. The bands and cigars are confirmed to be authentic. The serial number checks out. The cigars are outstanding. The Exquisito is an often overlooked Vitola in the Linea Classica for Cohiba. But let me tell you that it sucks that the price has gone up since the July 2019 price increase by Habanos SA. But earlier in the year, you were able to buy fresh boxes for just over $200. And that is now the sale price when these cigars go on sale. If you see them go on sale, I highly recommend that you purchase them. They are a 5x33 Vitola, which is a Sion or a small Panatella or a short Panatella. I think short Panatella might be the best description for them. Now, the official ring gauge is 33. It used to be 36, and it depends on box to box, but you often see that the cigars, they're rolled closer to 36 than 33. I think they do that to make the draw a little better, and I personally like them better like that myself. This August 2015 box is an outstanding example of this cigar. Beautiful vanilla bean, coffee, and floral flavors and earthy flavors from this cigar, and about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes of smoke time. Next, in early May, I received a box of H. Upmann Regalias and Rafael Gonzalez Petit Coronas, both of which had 2017 box dates, March and April respectively, and they're both outstanding value cigars. Just over $100 a piece for 25 cigars, so you're talking less than $5 a cigar. And for that price, the finesse that these cigars offer for their value, I would say that they make excellent daily drivers for anybody. The H. Upmann packaging in particular is just beautiful, beautiful graphic packaging on the dress box. And you can see the Rafael Gonzalez. They have a little decree on the outer lid talking about smoking the cigars within a month of shipment, from Havana, or letting them age for a year. Well, these cigars were aged over 2 years before I tried one, and they are outstanding. A lot of guys on my Instagram saw my write-up on them, and they went out and purchased boxes thereafter, and they were impressed as well. The serial on the Rafael Gonzalez box was scratched off, but I was able to recover the serial number and confirm, as I discussed earlier, regarding the Cohiba serial numbers from PuroExpress. I did confirm the serial number to be authentic. And let me just say about COH is that more often than not, you will get serials intact, okay? Out of probably like the 30 boxes or whatever it was that I got from them this year, maybe like 8, maybe 6 boxes didn't have serial numbers, and only one of those was from a counterfeited brand, like, you know, Cohiba or something. Like, I think it was I'll get into it later, but either way, in all but one case, I was able to confirm the serial numbers by piecing together the micro serials for every single box that came with the scratched out barcode. So even if a box you get from this vendor has a scratched out barcode, more often than not, you'll be able to piece together that serial number if you're really interested in it. I always check just for the sake of being thorough. I've had my mind on this project all year, so I'm here to say that I've never had a box with the scratched out serial number that I've been able to recover that number. I've never had to check out the authenticity check to be anything other than what they proclaim to be. So rest easy if you get a box with the scratched out serial number. But more often than not, you will not get a box with the scratched out serial number, okay? So moving on, continuing in May, I received a box of, in my next order, I received boxes of Ramon Allones Superiores, which, honestly, if you're going to spend money on Ramon Allones, instead of getting 10 of these for about $100, I say you go get 25 small club Coronas for just over $100, because they are a much better value, and the Ramon Allones Superiores wish that they could taste and draw as good as these small club Coronas. This is a Corona Gorda format, rolled at the Partagas factory, like most Ramon Allones cigars, but they do not even come close to the flavor of the small club Corona until they burn about halfway down. So at that point, you might as well just reach for the small club Corona, and you get 25 of those for the same price that you get a box of Superiores for. Ignore that little fancy LCDH band. Now, don't get me wrong, the Superiores aren't a bad cigar, and they might get a lot better with age. They only have about a year and a half on them now, and they have gotten better since I've gotten them, but they still don't impress me like the small club Coronas do, put it that way. Also in this order, we have a 16-count tin of Vegueros Entre Tiempos, and let me just show you how elegant these tins look. And a lot of people don't like this tin for whatever reason, Somebody on the Friends of Habanos forum called it a cookie tin, which I thought was really funny because it does look like a cookie tin, like those European butter cookies or whatever. It reminded me of one of those tins after he said that. I was hysterical when I read that. But it is a cool looking tin, and you could see that the packaging, it looks like it was designed very much with the American market in mind. Now, these make for an excellent daily driver. I paid probably about $70 for 16 cigars, all long filler, all high quality. These are very punchy and strong and pungent when you first get them, as if you open up the tin, they are wrapped in plastic. Not individually, but the entire bundle of cigars is wrapped in plastic, similar to the way you would find Jose El Piedra or Quintero or something like that. But open up that plastic, let the cigars breathe a little bit, let them acclimate a couple of months, and they will become medium-bodied with a mix of sweet and earthy and spice flavors. So if you're looking for an affordable daily driver, Vigueros is a good option, and the packaging is really cool. I also received my second box of El Rey del Mundo Demitas with that order, which I don't need to say any more about the Demitas. I've raved about it extensively, repeatedly. And I also purchased another box from the vintage section of Cigars of Habanos, a 2015 10-count box of Bolivar Royal Corona Tubos. This box of cigars is probably in my top 10 for the year. The Bolivars, I mean, I opened up one of those tubos and I felt the cigars, and tubos, they tend to ship better than cigars in cardboard, and they tend to not need much acclimation time, if at all. And these Bolivars, when I held them in my hand and I smelled the aromas and I felt the moisture on the wrapper, I realized that they were ready to go right out of the box that day. And I lit up one of those Bolivars that day, and it was a phenomenal cigar. If you look at the color of the wrappers, the shape of the cigars, the construction is flawless on these cigars. The wrappers are a beautiful orange, reddish sheen, and they have elegant tea and bright, twangy cedar flavors and lemony flavors that only Bolivar can deliver. And this is a phenomenal cigar, a phenomenal example. And the box was only about $110, I believe. It wasn't expensive for the 10 cigars, and for this caliber of a cigar, for this price, is absolutely worth it. If you're new to Cuban cigars and you're looking to explore the more full-bodied cigars like Ramon Allones and Bolivar, take note of the Royal Corona Tubos, because you can get a 10 box for an excellent price, and that is a good precursor to get you familiar with the brand's flavor profile before moving on to committing yourself to a 25 count box. Okay? So, I mean, we're about halfway done with my my review of my COH purchases for the year. And let me just say that this vendor has sent me box after box of straight bangers like clockwork. It's just, it's addictive to buy cigars from this vendor, because they're just like clockwork. Like I wrote, I can't say it any better than that, because they consistently have delivered me box after box of quality Cuban cigars that smoke beautifully, look beautiful, and taste amazing. It really was. It was like a sickness for me at one point. I was ordering from COH every week when I got paid. In late May, on the cusp of receiving my annual bonus at work, I contacted Ravi about purchasing a box of cigars that I had wanted to own since I began smoking cigars in 2011, 2.5 years before I even knew what a Cuban cigar tasted like. When I began smoking cigars, Cigar Aficionado's 2010 reigning cigar of the year was the Cohiba Behike BHK 52. Since I started smoking in the late summer, early fall of 2011, and Cigar Aficionado doesn't pick their top 25 till December of that year, That means that the Behike 52 was the reigning cigar of the year at that time, and it was the talk in all the lounges and shops at that time. Everybody wanted to try one. Nobody knew where to get their hands on one. But I just knew when I saw Gordon Mott and David Savonia reviewing that cigar. The video's still up on YouTube, and I saw that packaging, and I saw the box, and I saw the bands. I knew I had to have one. And I did get my chance to score some for the first time in 2014. But those of us who have been following the Cuban cigar market know that due to the 3 back-to-back bad harvests, they have had a problem procuring significant quantities of acceptable wrapper for the Behike's quality control standards. And I'm happy to see that they would rather not produce Behike and wait until they have the right materials to make it the way it deserves to be made, rather than rushing out more boxes to market and have them be inferior. So I reached out to Ravi in late May because COH was one of 2 trusted vendors that I knew of that had boxes of BHK 52 for sale. I contacted him about making the purchase, and I told him I was interested in buying a box of BHK 52s if he had one with an intact serial number. And if he didn't, then I would purchase it sealed. So I was saying to Ravi that if he had a box of BHK 52 with the serial number intact, that I would take that box from him. And if he did not have a box with intact serials, that I would take the box sealed. When I spoke with Ravi about this, he couldn't guarantee a serial number as he only had 2 boxes in stock. You got to remember that Ravi, he colors outside the lines as a gray market vendor by procuring product from multiple Habanos SA authorized regional distributors. Most LCDHs, they're only getting 2 or 3 boxes of Cohiba Behike at a time. So it's not like, Ravi has dozens and dozens of Behikes laying around his warehouse. He had 2 boxes of BHK 52s. And when I spoke to him, he told me he couldn't guarantee a serial number because he only had the 2 boxes in stock and they weren't in front of him at the time. But he assured me that if no serial number was present, then the box would be sent sealed. So it's a risk, of course, but as I have seen firsthand how good Behike counterfeits have gotten, and I discussed it myself on this very channel in 2017 when this guy Dennis on the Habana Hideaway Facebook forum was peddling counterfeit boxes of Behike that fooled a lot of people before he got caught because of matching serial numbers on multiple boxes. I decided that Ravi's reputation and the fact that he had sent me at that point probably over a dozen boxes of just incredible cigars, he had earned my trust with the quality of his wares, and I made the purchase right then after having a discussion with them. And I also, with that purchase, I made a purchase of a 25-count box of Cuaba de Vinos. I added that second box with the order to make sure that the Behikes were shipped in cardboard rather than a padded manila envelope shipper. Plus, I was trying to get 1 box from each marca in my collection, and Cuaba was one of the few missing pieces. The Behikes came in the first week of June, and not only were they sealed, the serial number was intact as well. And of course, the serial checks out, the packaging and the box were immaculate, and everything about this box of Behike matched the unboxing videos that I had seen on YouTube from reputable sources like, JJ Fox from London, and Saudi Air Cigars from London also. And not only that, I still have a 2013 Behike in my singles drawer that I was able to compare the size of the vitola and the bands. Now, obviously, a 2013 Behike has the old hologram, security hologram on it, while these had the new one, but at least I was able to compare the front etching, the size of the bands, the shimmer on the bands, like the way the holograms reflected and everything. Just an absolutely immaculate box of cigars. And if you are a Cohiba fan like myself, and you are someone who has always wanted a box of Vehique, then, only you can tell yourself that it's worth the money to go get them. But for me, as someone who doesn't necessarily smoke expensive cigars all the time, to me that, it was absolutely worth it to take some of my annual bonus and kick it towards a box of Vehique. And I'm extremely satisfied with that purchase. I have not smoked any of the Vehique out of this box yet. I am waiting for the right time, the right occasion for that. But as soon as I do, I will inform you guys. But the cigars were thoroughly inspected, and those of you who aren't aware, there are security features visible by blacklight in the Cohiba Vehique bands, and I will show those to you guys now. So rest assured, the Cohiba Vehiques that I received from Cigars of Habanos were of top quality and 100% authentic. That brings us to the Cohiba Divinos, which came in excellent condition, albeit with a negligible bit of mold that brushed right off and did not return thereafter. The serial number on the Cohibas was removed, but a trace of it was visibly remaining, and I confirmed it via Habanos SA's website. Several weeks later, I received a 2015 box of Vegas Robena Famosos, again, with mold present on the cigars, and it seemed the dress box had a moldy odor as well. The mold did not return, but the odor remained, so I decided to lay off dress boxes from the vintage section. I received a 10-count box of Monte Cristo Petit Edmundo a week later, along with a cabinet of Juan Lopez No. 2. The Petit Edmundo became immediately one of my favorite cigars. I only have a couple left from that particular box that I'm doing my best to save. The Juan Lopez are powerful cigars with Maduro-colored wrappers that are smoking beautifully now as well. My constant COH purchases came to an end after my next order was received in early July, 3.5 weeks after I had ordered it, and it was placed before I had received the moldy Vegas Robenas. A 2015 box of Monte Cristo Media Corona, which was covered in mold. The hot July weather, combined with 69% Boveda shrink-wrapped to the box, made for bad bedfellow. It took a little bit of elbow grease and an hour in the air conditioning to get the Montes rehabbed, but it was done. The mold did not return and did not affect the flavor or smokability of the cigars. The H. Upmann Magnum 46 that also came that day did not have any mold, thankfully, probably due to being in a cabinet as opposed to a dress box. Cabinet absorbs moisture better in terms of keeping them out of the cigars and keeping the cigars at a more level humidity. Discovering that cabinets, that old adage about cabinets being better to age cigars in than dress boxes, there might be some truth to that in the sense that dress boxes, depending on how they're stored, they can sometimes start to accumulate or harbor mold as time goes on, and they could start to be prone to being damaged or overly damp as time goes on, especially if you have fluctuations in your humidor. As you can see, that large tote of cigars behind me over here. My cigars, the majority of my boxes are kept in Ziploc freezer bags with a 65% Boveda. I have had a lot of success keeping everything stabilized this way. I regularly open those bags to freshen up and circulate the air in there, as I am constantly pulling out cigars for my regular rotation. I constantly inspect to check for any particular mold infestation or any sort of pests, which I have not thankfully had any issue with any pests damaging the cigars or anything like that. So after that experience with the Media Corona and the Vegas Robanas, I decided to give ordering from COH a break, and ordering from any vendor a break for most of the summer, because I was starting to see what the transit in the heat of the summer was doing to my orders. So I laid off for a little while. I just felt like it wasn't worth the potential of, I felt like I was playing with fire. And sure enough, when I did place an order with another vendor, which was already discussed, the PuroExpress order, when I got that box of Ramones with the Beatles. That's what can happen when you order in the dead of summer like that. And you don't want that to happen. Try to plan your purchases and be smart, because you don't want to take the risk of having to deal with, even if you do get a damaged box and the vendor replaces it, you still have to deal with that. Just exercise a little bit of patience. And in Cuban cigars, that's so important, because patience almost always pays off, and everything that you can apply that to is universal. So moving on, I placed my final order with COH at the end of October, right after my birthday, and I received it first in two parts. Okay, so in mid-November, I received a cabinet of Cohiba Medio Siglos, and a 25-count box of Punch Petite Coronations Tubos. The Tubos were 2 years old already, with the December 2017 box date from the La Corona factory. And the condition of the Tubos was such that these cigars were able to be smoked right out of the box, right off the truck. Absolutely incredible value, just over $100 for 25 Lunch Club demi Corona format cigars. And these Punch, they remind me a lot of the Punch with that floral, herbal kind of spicy flavor, the woody flavor. No, I don't want to say spice, not like pepper spice, like baking spice almost. Okay, but the woody and floral flavor is really what I'm focusing on right now, and they are outstanding cigars. And for $4 a piece, you really just can't go wrong with that. And the Medio Siglo, this is a cigar that it's really grown on me. I think I'm gonna have to put this cabinet also in my top 10 for the year. The price I paid for this cabinet was almost $200 less than what CigarOne is asking for it. And I received a box that was over a year old, and they are smoking beautifully. The Medio Siglo is a 4x52 Petite Robusto, and I like to think of them as Petite Siglo 6 at less than half the price for a cabinet. The serial number was scratched off on this particular cabinet, but I did confirm it by piecing together the remnants of the micro serials. Within 10 minutes of looking, I had it figured out, and I had it confirmed on Habanos SA's authenticity check. So every box of Cohiba that I have purchased from any vendor that discussed in this feature all checked out in Habanos SA's authenticity check. They all passed the black light, UV light band tests that we have discussed on this channel. They all passed construction, flavor, taste, the presentation, the boxes, the packaging. Everything is on the up and up with the cigars that any of these 5 vendors send out. So whether they're gray market or they're an official retailer, do not hesitate to make a purchase if you see something that you like. So, in conclusion, regarding Cigars of Habanos, I received the other half of that order about 10 days after the first, even though it shipped out before the Medio Siglos and the Punch Petit Coronations did. That's something else to keep in mind, is that if you order 4 boxes or 3 boxes or 5 boxes, 6 boxes at once from COH, they may, in order to keep the weight of the package down, they may send it out in, 2 or 3 shipments to avoid having a red flag via customs. Okay? And that's a good thing. But the final package, the second half of that order that I received from Cigars of Habanos, was my 3rd box of El Rey del Mundo Demitas for the year, March 2018. Excellent cigars. Smoked just as well as the first 2 that I went through already. And also a 10-count box of Monte Cristo number 5s, which are an outstanding value. These cigars, just incredible floral, earthy, and twangy flavors. And just the best thing about Monte Cristo that I like is that they have so many of their Vitolas in 10-count boxes, and those are excellent values that can be had for under $100, well under $100. And it just gives you an opportunity to have a nice variety of Montes at your disposal at all times. I mean, I have a 10-count box of Petite number 2s, 10-count boxes. I have multiple 10-count boxes of Petite Edmundos, 10-count box of number 4s, number 5s, and they never cease to impress me. And I love having that variety of Monte, and Monte Cristo in general has really grown on me this year. That was a brand that I never really had connected with based on my experience with the legendary, but in my opinion, overrated Monte number 2. But the Montes that I scored from COH this year were just top-notch. So the cereals were intact on those 2 particular boxes, and they obviously checked out. And I broke my own rule, and I lit up a Monte 5 on the day I got it, and it was outstanding. So, let's talk about COH in conclusion. They are a reliable, consistent vendor that sells genuine, authentic Cuban cigars. Okay? Ravi is the real deal, a legend in the Cuban cigar community. He did me a solid this year, answering my questions with the Cohiba Bejiques, and he delivered as promised. The man runs a business in a way that they're like clockwork, and I find them very enjoyable and pleasant to use. Let's discuss the caveats and get that out of the way. Number 1, there is no tracking, and shipping takes a few days longer than iHavanas on average due to the use of a drop shipper. Now, this is a smart thing for them to do, because this is one of the oldest, most reliable, and high-volume Cuban cigar vendors that ships to the U.S. And they've been around the longest compared to a lot of these other vendors, and they'll probably be around after those other vendors are gone, and they know what they're doing. And just have a little patience, like I said, and let them do the work for you. Okay? Them using a drop shipper means that they can continue to offer free shipping. They can continue to offer a package replacement guarantee. And they can continue, by the way, every vendor discussed here has a package replacement guarantee. Okay? I would not be recommending you vendors without a package replacement guarantee. And Cigars of Habanos has a package replacement guarantee, so do not fret. So their use of a drop shipper to have cigars sent from somewhere other than Switzerland might hold up the shipment by a couple of days, but is well worth it, in my opinion, because I made a lot of purchases from them this year, and I had 0 issues with getting one. So expect your cigars to take between 12 and 15 days to get to you from the day you order them. Occasionally a few days more, a few days less, but 12 to 15 days would be the standard from what I would say from my experience with them this year. And I did have more experience with them than any other vendor. Number 2, the method of shipping makes cigars prone to getting mold in transit in the summer months. You may want to request that your cigars do not come shipped with the Boveda pack in the late spring and during the summer until the weather cools down. This is a lesson that I learned the hard way, because in the warmest time of the year, I started receiving boxes. So we excuse me, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So that's something to keep in mind, because you do not want to keep getting boxes with mold on them. But I will say that you can just simply make a request in the notes section that you do not want a Boveda attached to your box during transit, and that could circumvent the problem. But I encourage you to consider not making any major purchases or not making any purchases over the summer, just to avoid those issues, okay? Because cigars are very difficult to ship overseas. We've discussed this in other features, and you want them to come in the best condition possible, and the best way to do that is to ship them in the most friendly environment possible, which is the mildest times of the year, okay? And, considering the middle of the winter when cigars are stored during transit in very cold temperatures, well, if you're freezing the cigars like I recommend you do, then that kind of gives you a head start on the process now, doesn't it? Okay, so the final thing, and this might be the biggest thing: buy dress boxes from the vintage section at your own risk. These cigars come from various regional distributors with varying storage conditions. Some are stored better than others, meaning that once these dress boxes get some age on them, they can be prone to getting moldy, or they can just, I don't know. It just seems that the quality from some of the older vintages from this section is variable. I am not impressed with the Vegas Robanas, and that could also just be that because 2015 was a bad year for Cuban cigars. But I do notice that the first 2 boxes that I got from iHavanas in 2017 came from the same Czech Republic distributor. How do I know they came from the Czech Republic? Okay, well, you can take the health warning sticker on a box of Cuban cigars, and you can use a translator app to decipher the language, and it'll tell you right on the sticker, most likely, what language it is. So keep that in mind. And keep track of where your cigars come from, because it seems like the cigars that come from this Czech distributor, they're not stored as well. But I would not discount using cigars from the buying cigars from the vintage section, but be mindful of the packaging they come in, the age of the cigars, and maybe consider that. Just because it's older doesn't necessarily mean it's better, because I could probably tell you right now that I can tell you right now that 2018 and 2019 have been incredible vintages for Cuban cigars. So don't shy away from buying a fresh box of cigars, because they might actually be better than the 2015s or 16s you have a chance to score. And you're going to pay less money for the new cigars than you would for the aged ones. All right? So all in all, though, there is a reason why COH is the vendor of choice for many Cuban cigar enthusiasts that have been in the game for a long time. Some of the most seasoned vets that I know, that I would consider experts on Cuban cigars, use COH as their primary vendor. They are an excellent resource to have in your repertoire, and they have some of the best deals and largest inventory around. I will be continuing to use I will be continuing to use Cigars of Habanos this coming winter, and all the way up until the warm weather hits again. And I probably won't go as crazy as I did this past year, but at the same time, COH is just an incredible vendor. I had an incredible experience with this vendor this year, and I cannot recommend them enough. I will not be picking a favorite out of any of them, but just know that I probably use COH more than I used any other vendor this year. So keep that in mind. And if you'd like to discuss this more, then feel free to hit me up via email or DM on Instagram. We'll be right back with my final words about VendorBowl. And see you then. Welcome back, friends. And thank you very much for taking the time to view this feature. There you have it. A walkthrough in pictures and narrated of several dozen purchases from 5 authentic suppliers of Cuban cigars that deliver to the States. As mentioned earlier, all of these vendors have delivery guarantees and they all sell authentic product. 2 of them are officially certified Habanos retailers, and all 5 of them have delivered some incredible cigars to me this year. Now, you guys saw several dozen boxes from some of the biggest names in the business. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via Instagram, direct message, leave a comment down below about your experiences with these vendors, or email me cigarsalute@gmail.com. I hope that the info provided here has given you all the tools that you need to make an informed decision about making a purchase online. Now, I apologize for the delays involved with this project, but it wound up morphing into something that I never had anticipated when I originally conceived it at the beginning of the year. It was just supposed to be one purchase from 6 vendors. It wound up becoming dozens of purchases from 5 vendors, and I feel like doing this on an annual basis is the absolute best way that I can deliver comprehensive and accurate, up-to-date information to you guys about who's hot and who's not. And all 5 of these guys, they all have their own unique benefits, and they all have their own unique caveats. So I will say that, a lot of people like to have, I guess I don't want to say brand loyalty, but they, a lot of people prefer to stay with one vendor. They asked me which one of these vendors is my favorite, which do I think is the best. Well, I think that all of them are the best at certain things. Okay. And I use all 5 of these vendors, and I take advantage of all the strong points that all 5 of these vendors have to offer. I regularly monitor the sales at all 5 of these sites, as, depending on which site you go to. Some of them have weekly specials like CigarOne. Friends of Habanos, they have 24 up, and they're running essentially sales on cigars, 5 different days of the week. And iHavanas and PuroExpress, I believe, changed their sales monthly, and Cigars of Habanos, I believe it's like quarterly. So you want to keep that in mind when you're shopping for a specific box of cigars. Use this video as a reference point if you are hunting for a specific box of cigars. Depending on what it is and what's important to you, you can go back and review the notes on a particular vendor to decide which would apply the most significantly to your purchase that you're planning on making. So I want to hear from any of the newcomers that decide to take a plunge into the world of Cuban cigars as a result of this video. I always like hearing success stories. I always like hearing from newcomers who are making their first purchase and are satisfied and happy about their journey into the world of Cuban cigars. I have helped hundreds of Cuban cigar enthusiasts begin their collections in the States, and I have made tons of friends both locally and abroad. And when I say abroad, I don't just mean elsewhere in the U.S., I mean around the world. We're a growing brother and sisterhood of individuals who are some of the kindest and most generous people that you'll ever encounter. And I want to thank everybody who has helped me out with information or corrections or suggestions. I want to thank, Vlad and Seabold and all my other friends, Anthony, John, anybody, Steve, anybody who's ever contacted me or, traded cigars with me, extended well wishes. Just so many of you guys have been supportive. I've had a couple of haters along the way, but I mean, that just kind of tells me that I'm doing something right. I've done my best to try and stand up for the community when I see fit. I've done my best to own the mistakes I've made in promoting finest Cuban cigars for so long. And I want to wish everybody else a happy holiday, a happy new year, and there'll definitely be more to come from Cigar Salute. And I wish you all peace, respect, and blessings. Now, this is going to take a little editing and whatnot, so I'm going to throw out a little Easter egg for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. Check that out. Take care.